Ah!
Hello. Welcome back to this week's podcast. This week is going to be brought to you by hostile work environments and tequila.
This week is also brought to you by Morbid Synchronicity, and I watched it.
I am your host, Madison.
Oh, I didn't see you there. I'm your other host,
my.
Jesse James. Let me move my assistant. It sucks
really
over
enjoying.
here. I have a lot of business.
There seems to be a lot of business generally for everyone right about now.
What do you mean?
I don't know.
Is there something weird going on this last little bit of time?
Nope, everything's fine.
Good to hear it. I wouldn't want there to be some sort of major issue that we had to deal with.
Huh? Yeah, I would, it would be too bad if we had a real, big problem to face as a country. But, you know, that's how it goes, I guess.
Well, at least, we're not having to think about that lately. That's not on everybody's mind. Completely unrelated, obviously. Not at all something that I bought to make it through this week. My snack corner is going to start with some London pink. Let me turn off my spookiness, since Halloween is going to last for me until the start of next year. But that doesn't mean that we can't also enjoy some less Halloween things. You can see now the color of this fine, very pink gin. And I would describe it as, it's strawberry flavored gin, supposedly. Okay. I would describe it as smelling like just regular gin that somebody poured a decent helping of the flavorant that they use in strawberry runts into. So it's
yep.
It's got a flavor to it.
I've always been curious about that one because I have seen it in the stores, but I've never been brave enough to make the commitment.
Well, you know what will up your bravery is right now at the store near me. This is $13.
Oh, that would up my bravery.
This was priced down to $12.99, and I got this and like a bunch of other like basics, and it cost me like just over $30. I was like, that seems all right.
That seems great. They must know vaguely. They must have some sense. The people will be needing that that kind of assistance.
Wow, people are really gonna need some of our nasty stunt gin.
I've also opted for some similar comfort. Oh no, what's that? Most of it's gone.
What's this one? I can't see the label very well.
This is Casamigos tequila, just the little one. So it's fine tequila, I guess.
You've been doing some work on that?
I've been working on it, just in my spare time. So tonight I have some lime and that.
Excellent. I was just going to ask if you had a mixer of some kind. That answers my question. So I have clearly tried this, but what I haven't done is make a, so I did mix it with sake and heat it up because I'm a nasty boy, and that's just what I'm going to do. But That was actually pretty good. What I'm going to try now may not be. Because what I also have is, I think, a 500-day ago gift of Dragon Drool licorice flavored soda. I believe the store that carried this near me is closed. And so this is a one of a kind, unless,
This is a
you
relic.
go anywhere else. And I feel like licorice and strawberry gin are just gonna meld right together. You know what I mean?
So well. Yeah. Oh, I'm curious.
So let's just clean up some of the very, very light driblets that I spilled all over everything, and let's very exactly measure this out just up to the top. That already smells like a lot of business going on in there. That'll go real well with my other snack corner bits. I may have the most non-working together set of snacks ever.
I had snacks, but I ate them. So I will just describe to you the snacks that I had earlier. Yeah, it looks like you're really enjoying that.
Let me just make sure this is mixed.
Mm-hmm.
It tastes like a Mike and Ike, so that's something. A big old wet Mike and Ike. So I'm gonna be getting into that over the course of this.
That's exciting.
Yeah, buddy.
Would you say that it's good and plenty?
I would say that it's more good and plenty than anybody would normally be into. And I'll hold a little snack corner off because I got a lot of nasty snack corner, but this just goes so well with what I would describe as a Mike and Ike. And that's some thick peppermint junior mints, which I imagine will not go with this at all. Yeah. So if you look, they're even more lumpy than usual. And that lumpiness, see how my camera handles this, is just chunks jammed in there. So
yeah,
it's basically just got little tiny, tiny bits of candy cane shredded into the chocolate. But it's good. I like junior mints a lot, except when they get old and start to get chewy. I will eat those, obviously, because I've been to a theater, but they're gross. But this won't go with this drink even a little bit, so I'm excited for that. And I'll just keep this other stuff off to the side. Put something over the top of this soda so it doesn't go flat. I wouldn't want to get the inauthentic experience from this nasty liquid.
The smell that like settles on the top is the most important part of that drink, I'd imagine.
Mm-hmm.
The snack that I had and ate prior to this was cheese that my mom and I found at a store that was like sharp cheddar but habanero but also mango.
Okay.
And it sounds good, but it was not executed quite well. It tasted like it have you ever applied like a lip gloss or something that's like mango scented?
Yeah, where it's like your brain expects it to taste like something, but it's just kind of like a weird hit to your nose.
Yeah. Or like the like Dum lollipops, they have like a mango flavor that I think would be a good example of this. But it just tastes like lip gloss to me because I've had a couple of lip balms and lip glosses that have that scent, but
Yeah.
there's not any like follow through in the taste. It's just not it wasn't very good. And I tried to make it a little more interesting by kind of melting it on top of some crackers to bring out
Something.
whatever mango flavor, and it just wasn't good. The habanero part was nice. I did appreciate the spice of it, but it was weird. Very weird cheese.
Um, maybe try if you have any left. It sounds like something you could maybe make like a bacon sandwich with, maybe.
Oh yeah.
But
I think that would be good.
otherwise, yeah, if it's not a good strong flavor, then I don't know what you're doing with that cheese.
Yeah, I was
Speaking of a good strong
expecting it
flavor.
to be strong. Uh-huh.
Well, I feel some kind of pep going. Um,
Are you awake now? Very awake.
um, I imagine you don't have to go into any of it, but I imagine there has been some fun discussions since you are currently hanging out with your folks. It's a
Childhood bedroom vibes.
good week for it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been interesting. For anyone who listens to this, um I broke up with my significant other, also known as third or fourth unofficial member of the podcast.
That'll work.
This week. Yeah. Um, Sad times. It was a mutual thing, so nobody's mad at anyone. I guess that's better than the alternative. So, I mean, that part's good, but in the meantime, while we figure things out, I am back at my parents' place, and I am politically not the majority here, so it's made for some interesting conversations, is a loose way of referring to what's been happening.
Uh, I will say, as a, I think that this particular person is one of the few people that I've had a relationship with that I don't talk to anymore. But uh, that that was like, I don't know, maybe two splits ago, and I went through a lot of shit with this person. They were having a really rough time with a lot of stuff. I'm fairly, let's say, I'm not a cash rich opportunity. So when people need help emotionally, I can be helpful, but like I can't necessarily do much that can't be made by hand or like gotten by somebody with my means. So like, I was a little dumber, but mostly I was just trying to make things work, and then like their life exploded, and we
Mm.
had made plans to do certain stuff, and I reacted to us splitting by spending, I want to say, an hour and a half in their apartment just full crying. I think that's the last time that I really like full cried, just in front of
Mhm.
them, just for like a while. So you know, it could always be a lot worse because I've done a lot worse, probably a couple times. And I like to think I learned from it, but mostly I'm just embarrassed of how that shit went down. Uh,
Yeah, it's hard to do any of this gracefully at all. Especially since we've been together for 4 years or 3 years. Been together for 4 years.
That definitely makes it difficult.
Yeah, it's like my first, I guess, adult relationship. So I very much feel like I'm cosplaying as an adult during this time. Like I don't want to deal with the shit you have to think about in these situations, like living uh spaces and stuff like that is shitty. But
well,
yeah,
the truth about our our generations is that because of what we're left with, we get sort of classified as eternal children. But the truth of it is, we kind of have to be daddy from like a very early age. And I think situations like what you're in right now are one of the places where it is at least still acceptable to be baby for a while. So, like, I don't know, you kind of have carte blanche to do whatever. At least that's how I feel about when people go through shit like that. Like, what, a year or so ago, I had friends who simultaneously got divorced, which I, for one, getting married at the age they were married at to be divorced over a year ago is already like, ugh. But, you know, that's just me. And clearly, I have all my shit together, so I probably have good opinions on that. But to me, I feel like I wanted them to be more, I don't know, more unresponsible for longer after that, but I don't think that's afforded to us very often, unfortunately.
yeah, I I'm lucky that I have parents close to kind of rely on during while I figure my shit out.
Right.
So yeah, I am very lucky to have that, and I'm glad we both do actually, so that's good. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting thing to navigate. This is my first breakup, I would say. So uh it's different. Uh,
I like to think of all of mine as amicable, but actually I think that I was just the sub in those breakups, so that was more of the situation. But the ones that are clearly amicable are always preferred, uh, even if
yeah.
maybe they're like, oh no, that other guy who has a lot of money and is weirdly like just a shorter version of you but rich. That's not really what's going on. And then I think she got married like a week ago to that dude. It's like, oh, I
Oh,
gotcha.
okay.
Which again, I really don't mind. Like, it's nice seeing people get stuff like that to work, but it is certainly frustrating when it is all directed at your own opinion of yourself. That's the part that sucks probably the
Yeah.
most. Yeah. But you know, I appreciate you talking about that stuff at all. I know that I'm usually very willing to talk about that stuff, but I also feel like maybe I'm just very cynical, so that makes it easier. Uh, but
I actually
generally, yeah.
yeah, I've been talking to some friends pretty openly about it. And I also am kind of the same way. I am pretty open talking about this stuff, emotional things. And one of my friends said, like, I think she was noticing that people our age are more open about these things, and we do talk about it more often because it's kind of like our stand-in for therapy because it's expensive.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And I was, yeah, I was reading some, where did I see this? I don't know. I think it was like a note somewhere from a therapist on her website or something. And she had put up something that said, make sure that you're not using other people to like journal your feelings onto, which I'm pretty sure that I do a lot.
Yeah, I
Because I
definitely
just
do that.
don't. Yeah, it's just kind of like verbal processing helps me to kind of like think out my shit. So yeah, I want to like have a good balance of I'm being open about my problems, but I'm also not taking advantage of the fact that these people are willing to listen to them.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, that is definitely something I've run into. The downside to being very willing to talk about that stuff is that a lot of people don't give a shit. So like, if you're gonna talk about it a lot, it's important to have people. Like for me, I often talk to Natalie of the famous and many episoded Natalie's Shady Fiction Warehouse, and uh, I know because like we've shared information with each other on all that shit for years that it's an open ground to complain for hours about one stupid thing that bothers you. Like, you know, say you made a painting for somebody's now deceased mother and they give you that painting back. Things like that where it's like, huh, I have complex feelings about this, but I also understand like the idea. uh, Sometimes it's good to have somebody to just talk about every little stupid thing you can think of with that, so you don't have to like live in it forever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. That's
but
been helpful.
I only choose very select mutual therapists, so I think that's probably important as well.
Yeah, that is true. So, my
Well,
cat is scratching at the door.
uh, let me check my notes real quick. If you need to let your cat in, you can. Uh,
I I will leave him out for now.
okay. So my week is going to sound like a lot of bullshit, uh, but I want to jump in front of like the more political stuff that, of course, we're going to talk about with the stuff that I think maybe isn't as likely to get talked about. Um, so I have my like I don't know. There's a lot of news, but the big things that I pulled from it are I want to say like a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, I think it was an executive order, which is even more infuriating, went through to allow uh, resource gathering large scale from the Tongas in Alaska, which is uh,
Oh, I saw that.
which is a pretty fucking big deal for environmental protection. We cannot just sit and let people fucking strip mine one of the like largest and most useful forests in the continent. Like that's sort of a big deal. It's also
Mm.
like indigenous land for like everyone in that area. So that's fucked up. And I feel like that's just fucking capitalists doing what they do while people are distracted by the other thing. Uh, so I want to mention that. I also want to mention fucking Poland, which what after going through a bunch of heritage crap with family and stuff. That's like one of the main places that my families are from. So I'm always sort of checking up on them, especially with their white supremacy bent lately. And that's going about as well as, uh, let's say, one of the worst countries that it's going in. Uh, so Poland lately is a good place to look if you want to look at what you need to like be wary of for here. And their big thing is essentially they have banned abortion, like just for that country. So that's fucked up. So we should probably make sure people talk about that shit. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we could ban abortion in the US, but I think people need to be more aware of the fact that things could get worse in terms of like reproductive health in certain states might require you to leave the state and say maybe have an ID that isn't for your state, creating like a light ban in giant chunks of space in the country. And
yeah,
that's pretty fucking important because a lot of those places are both non-white or more so than others, and particularly in poverty. So like that's gonna affect them even more. So we have to watch out for that. They also came out with a few different fun reports leading up to the election, including the amount of death threats that are sent to like AOC and a lot of those people, which is, you know, it's as I think we both gotten death threats. I think we talked about that, and hearing that the like general amount for AOC. First off, it's frustrating that it was lower than I thought. It was only like working out to about 2 a week, which is like, oh, that's not bad until you think about like, oh wait, that's pretty bad. And it's definitely more for other people depending on where they are and what they do. At least she's in like an area where it's harder to make that quite as threatening, but like that's something to keep in mind. Also, the death threats are very much a like centered on people trying to do progressive work, which is worth noting because conservatives get like people yelling at them, but you know they have people come to their restaurants and be like, "You're an asshole" while they're eating dinner. And that's a little different than somebody saying, "I'm gonna get you," you know. Also, since our last podcast has been the news about the Breonna Taylor case, where the he's the AG, I think there.
I don't remember his name.
Oh yeah, he's Cameron, the guy who is the AG there. They're getting word now from jurors, and there was something else. It was like another form of like people who deal with the cases. Anyway, they came out the last like 10 days and said that it's not that they didn't find anybody guilty for the stuff that they were looking for. It's that specifically the attorney general there did not give them the option of actual charges. So they were only deciding between like these misdemeanors and like very light versions of like manslaughter options and stuff.
Yeah, so that sounds about right.
So that I guess is actively being like dealt with. Like I think he's getting sued by a handful of people. Like that's all doing whatever it's doing. Hopefully it comes to something, but knowing that they made a big show of like, well, whatever this finds is the reality of it, and then they decided to tailor reality to whatever it is they felt like it could be, instead of actually putting these people on trial, which they clearly didn't do. So that's fun. But I wanna say they also had like not in custody, but they had like orders placed on some of the people or something from that case, like the people being tried, to make sure that they couldn't leave or something like that. So it sounds like they're actually like at least doing something as opposed to nothing, which is sort of what I would have expected. So there's that. And then the other thing was since a couple weeks into the year, the AP put together a thing because they've been, you know, tracking all the police brutality. There's been, so there's been police brutality every week this year against journalists since like at least May, but specifically against journalists, which they've already had issues of them targeting journalists and medics, but those police brutality incidents total up to at least 950 incidents, with partial reporting. So that's considerable if people want to actually look at numbers of like police brutality and where it's directed. That's a hell of a lot. And those are only during like BLM movement protests. It's not during like any side thing. So that's not like they showed up to like yell at police or some weird shit that they would probably try to say about journalists in current day. That's just strictly people reporting on protests this year getting targeted by police as journalists.
Yeah.
So, you know, at least people are keeping track of that. But again, it's not like super uplifting news. It's just like at least we have a way of knowing. And then, what was it? Oh, that's not super interesting. But there was somebody on the Ohio National Guard when they like deployed people for like help with a protest, but they specifically deployed people they already knew had connections with neo-Nazis within their departments. So like they have proof that that was something that they knew they were doing. And let's see, any more depressing stuff on here? I don't know. Walmart took all of its guns out for this week.
Yeah. I gotta say, that's how you know things are going great, when Walmart is like, better not sell guns right now.
Also, gun sales this year are higher than like ever, kind of, but not to Republican-leaning, right-leaning people. Gun sales have been going way up for the left, which I honestly think is probably part of why we haven't seen as much violence as we could have, because people are actually slightly worried about their impunity when they go out and just start trying to shoot people. They can't really, which, you know, I am still not somebody who is pro having guns. I was talking to somebody this week about like those issues and my thoughts on it. And for me, I think that conversation isn't a conversation I'm interested in until a situation where I have a family or like a household that I have to look after in some fashion, mutual or not. But like, if I had a kid or I had any sort of like space that was at risk for more than just me, then I would probably evaluate whether or not it was worth having a gun. But for me personally, I'm not gonna fucking stand around and fight people with a gun. Like, that's doesn't seem like a very good idea. And
you don't want to engage in the upcoming civil war.
And my experience with shooting is not an experience of I am willing to do this. I don't know, to like prove a point, which I kind of feel like is necessary for people to be willing to go after other people. Like, there's never a good point to make with something like that. Unless, I guess, you're talking about like a Hitler figure, maybe, but also like it would have been way more useful if we just had somebody like that contained somewhere so that we could figure out why the fuck they did it. But those people always end up dead. It's like that stupid Osama bin Laden thing where it's like, oh, we have him, so we're going to execute him and dump him in the ocean. It's like, neat, but...
Great. That like, solves everything.
Also, after seeing just how much bullshit our country does, that doesn't feel like a guarantee that, like, they're doing anything they say they're doing. That feels like them, quote unquote, taking care of a problem by telling us, don't worry, it's taken care of. Like, that's kind of nothing.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my outside of election news, I believe. At least for a lot of it. I have some news on other stuff that is vaguely political, but it is not political in a way that is useful with the type of information I'm going over with this. So, did you want to start one of your topics, perhaps?
Oh, sure. Well, my topic is vaguely political. I work from home, obviously, and so now I am working from my parents' home. Um, and
Mm-hmm.
mhm. And my brother actually also has started working from home.
Oh,
Um,
can you
part of
say
the
what
day.
kind of work? I'm
He's actually
curious.
doing working for the same company as me, doing just some light scheduling and customer
Okay.
service work. Yeah, so um cool to have him in my like work ecosphere, I guess. But the
Welcome to my ecosphere.
welcome. It's made for, especially it's just the last 2 days with the election and everything, it's made for a very hostile work environment.
Yeah, I could see
Haven't
it.
been able, yeah, I feel like just with the election, even though I haven't, I've tried to not watch it like 24/7, it's just like always kind of in the back of my brain. And for the
Yeah.
last couple of days and even before then, I feel like I've been very busy, but not getting hardly anything done.
Uh-huh.
Uh, uh-huh. And part of the reason I think is just, I mean, obviously it's crazy stuff going on right now, but my brother and I have at our workspace, which is the kitchen table, uh, have been having some fun conversations about why we think the way we do, and it is. I really wish I was better at explaining my positions and my worldview in a like an incremental way instead of
Right.
going straight to the point, because I know like I didn't always think this way. I used to think exactly the same way that my brother does, for example, and a lot of people do. Um, so, but it's hard for me to kind of think back and remember what it was exactly that helped me to kind of change my mind or like open my mind over time. Um, and I think some of it is being a little more creativity minded. I think that in itself kind of lends itself to making your mind a little more open to new ideas and concepts.
Yeah.
And you're right. I would say maybe a little bit more curious. Not saying that there's not artists who aren't pieces of shit, because they exist, but
Being a piece of shit is also not a political alignment. There's plenty of pieces of shit out there.
true. That's true. Um, but I I I don't know. I wish I was better at not going from like point A to point B with when I engage about this stuff, because my brain goes from I don't know. I can't even remember what we were talking about. Probably like minimum wage or something. I don't
Yeah.
know, something like that. But my brain goes straight to capitalism is the problem, and
Yeah.
it's the reason. And but I can't like fill in that gap and like bridge it for them. So I'm realizing now, the more that I talk to them and try and explain myself, not very well, that I understand why my ideas come off so like extreme and foreign and like
Yeah.
we've raised a commie kind of thing. But uh I don't know. I think maybe it's something that you get better at with practice. Or do you have any advice for this, or have you found the same thing? Like I have a problem of getting very like emotional and excited when I talk about
Right.
these things, and I
Uh,
can't like back it down.
I at the start I used sarcasm because even though people don't listen to that, they're more likely to take you seriously. And this is not a suggestion for you and your parents. This is just a suggestion for like maybe philo- philosophy wise, if you're going to be uh, having to think about like what in the moment and on your feet something has to do with our political failings as a country. I think, like, obviously having a good working knowledge, like, uh, it's sort of the shitty divide of people who go into higher education, people who don't. I think a lot of that stuff is garbage. I think, like, calling people who go to college more intelligent even is garbage. I just think that, like, the thing that college does afford people, even if it puts a lot of people, like, uh, my experience is that college is fantastic for focusing some of your actual interests in life and giving you the ability to test it. However, it also costs a lot of money, and asking people to go to college, even myself, if I went back and asked myself to go to college, I think is a bad idea when we're not able to just take care of poverty in this country, which is what we need to do, really. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but that's just sort of a pretense for like starting with sarcasm for me. I realized that if I tried to explain myself poorly, people would never listen to me again, or at least that's what it felt like a lot of the time. So I stopped trying to explain myself and I started trying to explain why I don't believe what they're saying first. Um, and that slowly evolved into uh, learning a little more about how touchy people are in general, and instead explaining what I agree with first, because you can make a lot more of a case for having like a similarly working mind, even if I think that's bullshit. Again, I think that people still believe in that. And I mean, like a side issue, but that's also why we look at people who have like various differences in how they work mentally, whether that's an injury or that's just like how they were born, and we think that they're like less people than the rest of us, is because we have spent so much time equating this like idea of thinking differently with being malfunctioning instead of being
Mm-hmm.
just different. So
Right.
I try to take that philosophy into talking with people of like, I can't just look at people like my very intelligent stepmother, for example, hear her talk about like centrism will fix everything, and then go, I guess she's stupid. Like, that's not a real thing. Like, I can't make those connections in my head. So instead, you have to take all of the experience you have with somebody and realize that, like, somewhere there's a difference, and that's what you actually need to talk about. So I guess
Yeah.
that's nebulous, but that's sort of like talking with family advice. When it comes to talking to just general fucking people, you can only use what they say. And again, I think it is a good idea to just go in and be like, I agree with this. And I think what you're saying on whatever this is exactly the reason why this thing that I believe is what I believe. And then you're kind of focusing it more on like you identifying the things that you believe in what they're saying or against what they're saying, but it's not taking what they're saying and saying that it's wrong, which I think is important. After that, though, once you've established that you're both human beings, uh, it's kind of up to them to decide if they're just going to be assholes or not. And unfortunately, like, you can't do anything about that. If they're going to be assholes, then you can keep trying to like describe your point, and like I've done that plenty of times, but you kind of have to go into that knowing that it's not going to do anything to like necessarily get to anything in the short term. Uh, For example, some people I talked to, it only accomplished slowly getting less fervor between the conversation we were having, which in reality I think is what people who are attracted to the like West Wing centrist idea of politics want, is to be like diffusing a lot of these problems because they're just trying to avoid danger, but that doesn't fix it. You're just supposed to like diffuse things with people who you talk to in a person-to-person basis. When it comes to like dealing with major conflict, you have to have a point, and like I have no idea on that. Like I'm not somebody who talks to groups of people as a thing. That's why this podcast is so much more helpful, because I can talk to you, not anybody else who's looking at this, which is better. I think the other thing that is actually helpful is, in a weird way, just being more lightly fanatical about something. If you look at socialism and you think, right, that works because everybody works together and gets what they're owed, that's a hard point to make, because people will say like, well, how's that different than what we do now? It's just that people are lazy, which is stupid. But if you're going to be able to explain why that's stupid to somebody, you have to actually like read about the philosophy of socialism or the point of socialism. Like, I'm not going to be able to say, hey, communism is good because it's this, to somebody like a centrist, or like a not gonna budge centrist especially. But I can explain all the ideas of communism to somebody, basically anybody, and have them be very into that. And in order to do that, it has to be its own thing. And honestly, in a lot of ways, I think that that's what we need. Like, if socialism wasn't called socialism, I don't give a shit. Same with communism. Like, the name communism is scary as shit to people because they compare it to like going after your political enemies, which is like not part of communism. Communism is a philosophy that assholes have used in the past, but not all of them were assholes. There were quite a few that were fine. Just like I don't think capitalists are evil, but I think that their worldview is in the end harmful. So like, if you're going to have a conversation with people like that, you also have to like know why the things that you want are exactly the things that you want, and kind of always be thinking about it. It sucks because it means you have to put a lot of effort in and they don't have to put any in. But that's just sort of where we're at with it.
Yeah, that's kind of the biggest thing I've noticed, is that anytime conversation specifically around like progressive ideas or socialism, anytime any of that comes up, the onus does become, or does, what am I trying to say? The onus is put on you to like know everything about all of your points, and that is very frustrating to me because I am not knowledgeable about everything yet. I'm still learning, and all I I like you said, a huge stumbling block tends to be in these conversations, like just the word socialism or communism is kind of like a boogeyman.
Right.
But if you're talking about like progressive ideas, like providing everyone with healthcare and a livable wage, those are very popular ideas. Which I have said, and the response is usually like, well, that's unrealistic.
Exactly. Basically the I wish you would just grow out of this is where that gets you usually. I think if you want a topic that I think is much easier for most people to wrap their head around if they're willing, I think one aspect of it is the conversation kind of starts with the idea of buying a house in our generation, because that's something everybody can kind of see. Like, there isn't as much house ownership among as wide a group of people because we can't afford it. And I think that most people will sort of agree with, like, yeah, it's tough. And, you know, if you're with somebody who's especially empathetic, you can mention that, like, you know, without owning a space to live in, I can never actually be settled. Like, the idea of having a family, the idea of having, like, a retirement, the idea of all of that rests on the, like, good graces of other people already. So, like, whether I want to or not, I have to live in a, like, nanny state anyway, because I'm living under other people's rule no matter what. And sure, you can make the claim that, like, the place that you live in, you're responsible for getting that, like, taken care of. Like, you need to, like, be able to supply that. But that's sort of the idea, is to, like, make people think about, like, what you can actually control and how people are taking that away. Because I think the real conversation to have that is easier to understand why something like socialism is important is, like, landlords in general are the perfect topic, because landlords have a job in which they collect money for you being on their property. But if, like, landlords always talk about risk, they talk about, like, having, you know, people sort of, like, they have to care for all these people. That's really hard work. All of that's bullshit, because all of the money that they use to take care of things or care for people or do whatever they need to do is supplied by the people living in the houses already. So it's actually zero risk unless somebody, like, purposefully tries to burn down your building and then, like, I don't know, come after you. Like, it's not a realistic risk. Once you have property, once you own it and you can put other people in it to, like, pay you eternally, there's no risk. And also, like, what did they do for that job? Like, there's paperwork, there's taxes, fine. But in essence, what if you spread that out throughout the entire year like a job? You're doing nothing. Like, you're not even having to write a number down a day during the year. You're just sort of having to own something already. And the thing about ownership of homes and, like, leasing of homes is that while you are in a very clear position of not taking any real risk, you're also in a position where most people keep using that money to get more. So you can become wealthy very quickly if you are wealthy enough to be on that path of becoming wealthy. But, like, the people who are under you are completely under your control. Like, there are tenant laws, but, like, that doesn't stop you from being able to impose anything you want in terms of, like, things that could effectively push people out of your buildings.
Right.
And that's actually a piece of news. The, like, since early September, I want to say, when the stuff lifted off of evictions, they've had, like, a giant spike of evictions everywhere. That shit that they were like, that's not going to happen. That happened. Like, that's happening right now. And that shit is obvious. Like, there are people who are not going to have units sit and not get paid, even though the fact that they're not paying for that unit in reality doesn't mean anything. Like, ultimately, you know, it's more a discussion about, like, do you want a housing commission? Do you want, like, some sort of governmental oversight? Like, what is it you're comfortable with when it comes to housing? But it sure as fuck isn't individual landlords.
What?
Walmart, is there anything you would like me to pick up for you? Any snack,
anything? Discount
no,
Halloween.
I'm good.
Discount Halloween candy. All of it.
Oh. I should have said that. That would have been smart. The cat has entered the building. Hello. Would you like to join? Come here. That was my mom.
Yeah.
Nope.
I think the secret to the landlord argument that works best for me is that you can use the landlord argument to talk about police. You can use the landlord argument to talk about corporations, because that's all the same shit. Look up WeWork and the way that they are destroying a lot of property and stuff. That is a landlord argument as well. And the landlord argument is really interesting because it's actually a communist argument, but you can present it as a socialist argument as well. But I think that that's a good exercise just for like, don't just like think about what I'm saying about it, but like if you look into what landlords are, the risks, and like listen to how people try and justify things like needing to make, you know, things work for them because they're responsible for a lot of people, like that kind of shit. Also, do yourself a favor and just look up just a bunch of images of landlords, and you will find people who are just like, yeah, these people look trustworthy. Also, keep in mind, technically, and one of the reasons why I was never too worried about like certain aspects of like safety, the pressman at the place where we both worked is technically a landlord as well. Like, lots of people have property they rent out. It's just whether or not you think of it as like being significant or not. And I think that turns into a good thought exercise on learning how to talk to people, because you can reference back to the idea of ownership and what you do to actually benefit the world, and how you having that space and that property actually hurts a lot of other people. And that's sort of the point. Like, in a lot of ways, insurance is just landlords over our health. Like, there's not really another way to think of it once you get down to what insurance truly is. They've supplied a way to make things more expensive for their own ends. They've supplied a way to control hospitals and how they service people. And they've developed a way of communicating with people that decentralizes your ability to do anything. And that's all it is. Insurance doesn't do anything else. Like, the most that they can offer is going like, well, we have information on where a doctor is, but like, isn't that more of a information issue? Like, that has nothing to do with insurance. So that kind of stuff works its way out into the rest of the world pretty easily. And having a space wherever, like, keep in mind too, for me, a big issue is like where, if you're suggesting, because this is a big landlord argument, that somebody could just move. This is like a Ben Shapiro thing. When he's not worried about how wet women are getting, he's worried about like how we're punishing landlords and like owners of things. And the truth is, once they own something in a space, their suggestion is always, why don't you just go to a space where it's cheaper? Like, you could be the landlord. And like, that's a incredibly non-sustainable option. Also, like, that is exactly sort of the colonialization problem of everything. Like, yeah, why don't we just simulate every other bad idea we've ever had by trying to like canonize this as the good thing people do in our country? Like, it fucking sucks. And like every other country that has a large economic system does this shit too. They go buy up a bunch of property. It's like that area north of Australia that I think China owns like everything on an island that's above them.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing really there as far as I'm aware, but it will make a lot of money in the future because people will have to go somewhere at some point. And like, that shouldn't be a concern for people. We should be concerned with keeping people safe, not how will we make money off of this future. And I don't know, sort of a big nasty tangent, I guess, but it is sort of the conversation that our whole country needs to have regardless of where we are next week, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It is a very big, very multifaceted conversation. And yeah, I'm trying to learn how to work in like the middle ground steps in between like how they think and how I think. And
Yeah.
I think it's just going to take a lot of research and time, but it gets so difficult, especially like once I like in my brain, I have finally come to the conclusion, or at least this is like how I think. This is my point B, is what I'm trying to say, I guess, is that people are innately deserving of uh healthcare or like being healthy.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to worry about that. And you should be able to live in a house or a place and not have to worry about not having that.
Yeah.
And the way I think is that that should be the whole purpose of government, is to supply those things, or at least a very basic level, hopefully a good level, so that people, I don't know, the less fortunate of whatever system it is, have a starting point at least and
Yeah.
have something to go off of. And anything less than that is cruel to me. So I just don't understand, like, in my head when I hear these arguments, my thinking immediately goes to, that's cruelty. Like, that's inhumane. The way we
Right.
think about so many things is just cutting out the middleman, or sorry, increasing the middleman so
Yeah.
you don't see the cruelty firsthand.
Yeah.
And
Middle management is vital to have capitalism work.
yeah, it's the opposite of what I said. It's many, many, many middlemen. But
Well, like
yeah.
for me, one of my big problems with, so I think housing is a right, shelter is a right in general,
Yeah.
and I think having an expectation that shelter should be whatever you feel like giving somebody is also, it leads to cruelty very quickly. But we have plenty of shelter, and for people like me who just want to be somewhere where they can technically walk out into an area where they can get to places, I don't mind living further away from something. Like in a reasonable state of doing things, we would have a very different questionnaire leading into getting property of like,
Mm-hmm.
what do you need? And like, how does that impact you as opposed to other people? That's like a real thing to think about. But my big issue, and the thing that I will take as sort of like a, things aren't going to be fixed until we kind of figure out, I don't think things will be fixed necessarily, but things can't be ethical until we're talking about shit like this. I think it's kind of weird that we, instead of paying for uh, our water supply by being just like like with a job, you're just taxed with everything. You're just sort of like, you're having your resources like coming to you reduced by the amount that needs to be supplied to a place. And that should be a percentage so that what you do gets you results and helps whatever like place you're in. Like I think taxes are super important.
Mm-hmm.
But on that same ticket, it really bothers me that like even things that seem very like socially responsible, um, like you know, all of our water is paid for through utility in this area. I think that goes for most areas, but I can only speak to here for like this example. I think it's much more ethical if everybody pays a percentage in just from the get-go on having water for everybody. Like people who are homeless shouldn't be homeless, but if they are, they should have access to water and they should pay that same percentage, which is nothing, into having access to water because that's a fucking right. Like people like Jeff Bezos should literally be just paying a chunk of what they make into keeping that water going. And, you know, more pie in the sky ideas from me, but like, I think there should be a money cap. I think like you hit 10 million in this country, you're done. Everything
you did it.
Everything you make in assets that goes past that as a single human should just go straight into the public, not into your pocket, which would mean like you're either spending or you're not. And maybe that also means that people who own companies get to that level and make it and don't feel like doing it anymore. Great. Somebody else will do it. Like, that's kind of the point of not having this like weird hero capitalist bullshit idea.
Like, the sky is the limit. You can go as far as you want. Yeah.
Now we have people fucking shooting cars into space because they think it'll, they'll make Grimes like them more, and like it might work, but it also is fucking stupid. Like, that benefits no one. Like, that's not even research we needed. We didn't need to know if we could get a car into space by itself. Who gives a shit? So it's that kind of garbage.
I also, along, I guess, similar lines, an argument that I've been hearing a lot lately is that capitalism hones and encourages innovation in which and it does, like, that doesn't happen in other models,
right.
Which I know that's wrong, but I can't explain in good terms why that's incorrect. And it's hard to like, how do you measure innovation? Like, that's
just that same shit. It's like people, like, I'll use Elon Musk as the example. Everybody talks about how smart Elon Musk is. He's smart enough. I don't know. Who gives a shit? But he started with money. He got more money. He got more chances. He got more money, and he met the right people. He's not the fucking mind behind SpaceX. He's not the mind behind any of his fucking companies. The only company you could kind of put him behind is fucking PayPal, but that was him and another older dude who knew what he was doing. So, like, not really.
Not to mention the stuff like the child labor that it took to get to where we are now. So
all the like just evil shit, and then like Bill Gates, he's smart. He also stole everything to start his company. He literally just took everything, and then like made himself a lot of money. So yeah, of course he can do all kinds of shit now. Of course he's supported all kinds of endeavors, because once you're that big a piece of shit, if you don't, then people are going to come for you after a while. It's actually the problem with Jeff Bezos in like a capitalist sense, is that he's making too much money to be able to go out there and be like, see, I'm a philanthropist. So he has to just rely on this weird hero worship of capitalism instead of actually doing as much as he needs to. And he does giant fundraisers through his company for all kinds of shit, but it's nothing compared to what he's actually making. Like, same with Bill Gates, but, Bill Gates is percentage-wise probably further along, and that's the only reason he's a good billionaire. Like, it's frustrating. And I think something like $10 million would allow people a inescapable safety net, honestly, and your kids, and if you're not idiots, their kids, because that never goes away if you do the right things with it. But just the idea that having your uncountable stacks of cash is a right, but people not being able to drink water without like going into a bathroom at a mall that lets them is insane. Like, that's not a way of treating people. That's just us being huge pieces of shit and not wanting to admit it. But now I'm just going into how I would talk to people about like all of this myself.
I mean, this has just been my brain kind of on like a cycle for the past week, which I think it's good to be challenged. I enjoy that part of it, and makes me question my own thought process, and I'm seeing the definite gaps in where I need to do more research and know more. But it is very frustrating that I feel like I have to put in a lot more work and understand a lot more, like, outside of anything that I would ever normally know. Just because someone wants to say immigrants are stealing my jobs, or just shit like that. Like, it's very frustrating.
It's like everybody went to church every day for their entire lives, and then all of a sudden their kid comes home and they're like, I went to temple. Let me explain how it's different and I like it. Like, you're just not going to convince them that it's the right option. Not that I think there is a right option on that shit. Even if I am anti-Christian to a degree, that's just my personal shit. Like, you can't convince people it's right in any sort of short term. That's just not going to happen. But you can slowly help people see that, like, they are being supportive of a really bad way to live. And that's kind of all you can hope for. Like, it's never going to be a super fast process.
It's going to be increment. Like, I have to just remind myself of that. Because like I said, I used to think exactly the same way. And there was no one single incident that made me change my mind. So, yay. I wanted to look and see if there was any update election-wise, but there is not.
I don't think there's not going to be anything definitive for a few days with the way that they're handling that shit. It should be relatively definitive, but every time I look at the totals, it's like, oh, right. That's, like, not that different from stuff that you could total up in terms of counts from before. So, like, I don't know what you do with that other than just, honestly, the right answer is we need to keep waiting. But everybody is in hell right now waiting for stuff, which is why I usually don't drink, and I have had a little bit to drink every day since Election Day. And, like, I'm glad I saved it up, because, like...
It's there when you need it.
This is definitely the spot where I need, like, I can be a little bit drunk and just fall asleep with, like, a bunch of shit on in the house and feel fine about that. My apartment's not gonna, like, burn down because my tablet is playing some stupid Netflix shit. More to come on that soon, because fuck. But, man, yeah. Have you watched any movies, or have you just been worried about stuff?
I've mostly been worried about stuff. I have a show to plug, but I think I might have plugged it last week. The Queen's Gambit. Have you ever heard of that? Or did I say it last week?
I don't think you said it. Describe this.
It is, so it's on Netflix. And
that's where I've seen it, as I saw a flash page for it on Netflix.
Yeah. So it's a show about a girl who's, like, orphaned when she's 8 or 9, and this is set in, like, kind of the middle of the Cold War. And she gets sent to an orphanage and grows up for a while, but while she's there, she meets, like, a janitor or something who's really good at chess, and she turns out to be, like, a chess child prodigy.
Okay. That explains the flash page I saw.
Yeah. And then the show just kind of follows her life, and she has some like substance abuse issues that she has to deal with, and it's very interesting. I don't know if it's based on anything true. I'm not sure. Probably, I don't know, but it's very interesting.
And so you would recommend it?
Yes.
Okay.
It uncovered a memory for me that I had totally forgotten, but I was in a chess club in like junior high, but I think the reason I forgot it is because I was in it with my brother, because we were going to a school that was joint junior high and 6th grade and under, and the chess club was for the 6th grade and under, but I wanted to do the chess club, so I just hung out with my brother and a bunch of, like, children to play. chess badly. I wasn't even good at it, but
I love chess, and I was really excited. Like in probably like 2012 or something, I had somebody I was seeing who was like, "I really want a chessboard. I've never played it, but I've heard that European people like it." And I was like, "I would like to get this chessboard." Yeah, chess is the closest thing to having like actual modern game rules of a lot of the board games, I think, where it's like these individual pieces all have different abilities and you're having to like use them for specific actions in like a way that works together. That's a very modern, like, basically video games and card games and everything that is recent kind
I
of
hadn't
uses
actually
that.
thought of it that way, but yeah, that's true.
Well, it's like how fighting games are just Magic the Gathering. Like, there's not a big difference in space. Like, those two things happened within a few years of each other, but that is the same system. It's a set of abilities at different speeds interacting with each other in different ways. And when I play one, I play it in the exact same way that I play the other. Like, often too slow. That's my big failing in fighting games as well. But it's thinking about how something can slide in front of something else or whatever you happen to be interested in when it comes to either of those games. Which is why I play Magic the Gathering with decks that often have really fucking weird, obscure rules attached to it, because I'm an asshole.
That sounds like the best way to play that.
Yeah. This might be interesting to no one, but I really like what is maybe the most hated system in Magic that I've heard of, at least, which is poison. It's a thing that adjusts it so that you're basically playing a game against other people on a completely different life bar. So you don't give a shit about stuff that happens to you. You're like playing a little game over here that other people aren't playing. And I think that things like that are interesting, but also I get why they're frustrating. That's a complete tangent. For some reason, Magic the Gathering, I'm a real asshole in, and every other game I want it to be as hard as possible for me because I get more enjoyment out of it that way.
That does sound exact. That vibes with everything you've told me about your D&D character.
Uh-huh. Yes. Yeah. I hadn't thought about that directly, but that is definitely accurate.
Yeah, you really set yourself up for a fun time with that one. Unironically, truly.
Well, I'm going to heat up this coffee because my dark, horrible liquids are becoming unbalanced. And then I will return to talk about some media. So if you have any media interests beyond what you've just described, think about them currently, and also maybe think of a haiku while I'm gone.
Haiku. Oh wow, that's a. All right, I'll think of it. What is that again? 5 syllables, 7, and then 5. I am impressed that I remembered that. Okay. Haiku. Mm, 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 mm. Dang it, that doesn't work.
Is it 573? Is that haiku?
It's 575.
Okay.
Okay. This election sucks. he is trying to steal it. Mail fraud is not an actual real concern that we should be worried about.
Mail fraud is bullshit.
There you go. I gave up at the end, but that there.
Let's see. My cup is full now. Big hot coffee pot.
Oh, I like that.
Is full. My life is hot now. Working together, that's probably just the best. Really contemplative.
Mm.
Anyway,
I liked that. That was a good one.
So my stress has been helped by a few things. So I'm going to start off this little section with a little section that I call, "Hey, there's stuff over here," because this table looks like a fucking disaster. So I did a couple different Halloween type things, ongoing into the future, of course. I got a table full of masks because my body shit out on me and I didn't feel like making anything. So I have a bunch of old shit. I am still making a Halloween costume for Halloween, but Halloween is Christmas now. Yeah. So I got this, which is a very affordable. So I got two things that are $20. I think I might have mentioned them last week, but I have them now. So this is a case for the Switch that I was given as an early gift for Christmas, which I feel very, very fortunate to have received. Here it is.
Yay. I like that pattern on it.
Yeah, it's the Tom Nook leaf, since he is a Tanuki raccoon dog.
Yeah.
And then this has like little attachments to keep it in. Anyway, now I can take it with me if, say, I go to visit family when we can. I can show. I think I have family in every household I would go to that is interested in games in some way or another. Plus, it has internet connectivity to play old Super NES games and stuff, which I know my pops will be into, since that was my late birthday gift. I guess early birthday gift, however you want to see it, was finding that real pain in the ass to find Super NES Mini so that he can play games that are like, my emulation stuff is great, but you have to sort of accept that it's going to be emulating to whatever you're playing it on, which means it's not going to be as snappy. It's still good, but like I can still play Mario World and Metroid because I know every inch of those games from when I was a kid. I'm not going to expect my dad to pop in Mario Kart and just anticipate turns in that thing. Only downside is it doesn't have a good Jolf game, so he can't Jolf properly. But I still want to get him a really ridiculous weird thing in the future, but I can't do that right now. Maybe when we work in normal workspaces again, maybe.
Maybe.
I like giving gifts, and it's real difficult to do when we're living like this. The other thing is I do have more snacks here. It's not just me and some offensive liquids and masks. I also have a couple snacks left. So first, some nice getting rid of our snacks. We got this this fine, fish fillet knives are really what you want for opening up a bag of snacks.
They do the trick.
So give. Oh, that smells like a fucking Crate and Barrel. Oh.
Was that a pumpkin spice that I saw on the bag? I can't anticipate that being amazing, but what is your review?
Incredibly salty, so that's number one.
Oh, okay.
Incredibly sweet. You see this picture of like fake wax-looking pumpkins and like spices?
Yeah.
That's what it tastes like.
Okay. Makes sense.
That's actually excellent, but not because it's good. That I ate one of these and I'm good for like a long time.
Oh,
so
yeah.
This is a really good. If I had to put snacks in a backpack to take on a trip, this would be perfect because I would not run out of them for quite a while. This other thing I have higher hopes for. I never thought those pretzels would be good, but I think this might be.
Oh,
so I'm pretty excited
intensely jealous of that.
Yeah. I was literally just walking through the store like, well, I'm already down here. I should check and see if there's something I need because tomorrow's the election and that's going to be a fucking shit show. So, oh shit, you can smell that the second it's fucking.
Ooh.
It smells like. It smells pretty fucking good, actually. I wish these bags just tore like a bag and not like they're made out of.
I always have issues with those.
This was a piece that tore out of the inside of the bag. This is like lining. These bags suck. Anyway, yeah, you can see in the top here. That's what tore off.
Oh, weird.
Anyway, yeah, that smells real good.
The crunch sounds, the ASMR checks out is good. That passes.
It's light. It's like not the flavor. The flavor is actually pretty intense, but the chip itself is like kind of more closer to those apple cider vinegar ones that I tried out.
Was that the same brand?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh. That must be. I'm pretty pleased with this brand's variety.
That's really good. It doesn't have the overwhelming sweetness of barbecue chips. But it is a little bit sweet like barbecue. It legit in my brain I'm getting that like sort of I don't know if it's the same sauce. I've only dabbled in Korean food with Korean friends or friends that are really into Korean food. Plenty of experiences, but not like I haven't gone deep in. It's quite good. It does not taste like fake meat, which is what I was worried about. It also doesn't taste like they're putting spices in to like cover up sort of the generic chipness of it, which is also something a lot of those flavors do.
Yeah. Does it taste like I'm gonna pronounce this wrong, but what is it, gochujang sauce? Like the red?
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. That the sauce that you get on like bulgogi.
Yeah.
That is exactly what it tastes like.
Oh,
it tastes like
so good.
that, and then like a savory, like sort of almost harder potato-y kind of flavor. Yeah, that's real good. That's actually way up there on my my novelty chips scale. I would suggest those.
Yum. That's a really good flavor. Whoever is working at that company, they're having some very good like flavor ideas. They're doing a good job.
The kettle people, there were like one or two other flavors I saw on an end cap. I think the apple cider vinegar things were a special they did for specifically like September, October. I didn't see those there, but they have this, and they had something else that was like not at all what I expected. That also sounded good, but I couldn't. I'm not gonna like. I already have a like half a bag of chips and a new bag of chips, and that's more chips than I ever eat in like a short amount of time. So I'm already gonna have to like vacuum seal these in bags so I can eat them as slowly as I eat them.
Yeah.
They're real good though.
Oh, you know what I just remembered is that this brand, the kettle chips, they are the ones who do like the salt and pepper flavor. That is one of my top chips.
I still taste the red sauce, and I'm still enjoying it quite a bit. So
yeah, I'm pretty jealous. I'm on their website right now to figure out what the other flavor would be. Wait a second. They have a page called Tater Tracker. That seems important.
Is that a sex thing?
Oh, you know what? You enter the code on your bag and it tells you where your potatoes came from.
Let me see.
It says it's on the top right of the front. Here, I'll just show you the diagram.
Oh, yes. Do you want to type in my digits?
Yeah.
Okay. S A 1 0 1 2 X A, and then a 1 that might be with it or not. So maybe you try it without and just copy it first.
Okay.
Fuck, those are good. That bag might not have issue finding completion.
I think I think I'm missing one digit. Is there anything?
There was a 1 at the end, so I guess add that in.
So the format I guess is like what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 digits and then there should be 2.
Oh.
Like next to it. Or I'll just read it back again to make sure. This is probably the most entertaining content we've ever put together. SA1012XA. Did I get it right?
Yeah, and then there's here you can also witness it. That's what's at the top right of this bag. So if it isn't,
that is a completely different format. That's so odd. XA1. Maybe I'll try the 10. I don't understand.
Yeah, it's a strange setup. I don't believe there was any other obvious business though. So if that doesn't work, I guess we can just give up. But
yeah, that's fine. Anyway, they have like photos from all the different farms. So
cool.
If you feel like looking at photos of farms,
I'm not against it.
Potatoes specifically. They have a lot of recipes that you can use your potato chips in.
Huh. Well, I might have to look that up because I can always use a good casserole or something.
One of the recipes is for banh mi hot dogs. So that might be pretty good actually with the ones you have.
I'd do it.
Yeah.
I think that concludes the snack corner stuff that I'm willing to do.
I have a lemon rind that I'm gonna suck on for a little bit. That's snack number 2 for me.
Big fan of lemon. I wish that it didn't
Or lime,
harm.
I guess.
I wish it didn't harm your teeth over time, because I would definitely eat that stuff more often.
Mm-hmm.
I looked into something over the course of this week that I don't have any definitive answers on, but so most of the week leading up to the election, the Trump campaign has had 1,000% fund matching on all donations, and of course they're acting like that's a limited time BOGO. Come get your extra cool shit opportunity for everybody. But it really bums me out in a way, because I've been seeing this fund matching shit since 2018, like in prominence. And what I haven't seen is anybody explaining what the fuck it means. So I researched fund matching, and I think I told you I was looking at like the FEC guidelines and stuff like that. That shit's boring as hell. But I went through it, and basically their reasoning for it is hard to parse. There are definite limitations on what that stuff can be used for and where that money can come from. But the biggest part of it is that individual donations can only max out at a certain amount, which I want to say is like 2,600 is like the max, which again, why is it that high? But also like that's still way under stuff that I see pretty regularly, I feel like. And offering 1,000% matching means if you paid them, $260, you would be at that max. Also, they themselves would be donors. I don't even think it's necessarily super legal to like pay into your own campaign, depending on what the campaign is. Like you can pay into your own campaign, but not from like certain funds and stuff like that. So I want to know what the fuck this grift is, and everybody online is sort of like, including the FEC, is sort of like, well, people don't look into this that hard, but also there's all kinds of weird loopholes, but also there's all kinds of regulations, and it just never fucking comes up. The only time you hear about like doing the wrong thing with money on an election is when people are trying to like slander somebody. Like that's the only time it ever shows up. And along with that, there has been since the tax stuff, especially with Trump, it's come out that he's been making tons of money for himself by having both other countries buy properties and things from him, or rent them usually, and pay him over time in quote unquote legit ways by having this like sort of pipeline of money to him, not the government. And then they get favor. That's some real hashtag landlord shit. And then also, the one that more people have probably heard about is that he has the Secret Service put up in his hotels when they are accompanying him to his constant golf trips at his own place. So he is essentially getting stuff for free, but they are paying his hotels and him. It was like $750 a night minimum at like the places that he owns that they were getting put up at, where it was just like, I can't believe somebody would be fine with that place making that much money off of Secret Service just having to be put somewhere.
Yeah.
But that's apparently
insane.
fine because nobody's going to give a shit about that. Anyway, that kind of stuff, though, made me think a lot about how, like, nobody's really talking about where the money is coming from or going to for this money matching shit. They're just putting it out there. And the two most definitive sounding versions of what's happening I could find are one, that's being done illicitly, but it's not a big enough deal for people to look into. Or more likely, it's all lies and it's just being done as a way to convince people who are less savvy about their internet usage and stuff that that's just like a thing that really means something. Either could be true though, but those sound like the options.
Yeah.
Because otherwise there are a lot of regulations and stuff that could be brought up and like charged. So like technically it's only safe to do if you're lying about it. And that seems to be what's going on.
Yeah. I remember seeing an ad or something that was to the effect of them matching it, and I remember thinking it didn't say who was matching it. It just said it would be matched up to I guess the percentage was 1,000, which is crazy.
Well, it has been just lately. It was like 300% for a long time.
Okay, yeah, that's the one I saw.
Yeah, but early on it was like 100%. Like that's even what a lot of the like Democratic ones are doing is they're doing fund matching stuff, but like I've never heard a good like breakdown of what the fuck that actually means, because it implies that they're just paying them money, like
paying themselves.
Yeah.
Because I did see that in a Biden ad, I think on Twitter or something too.
Right.
And yeah, I had the same kind of I've never seen that in not that I've really paid attention until the last like 4 or 5 years, but I had never seen that before.
But yeah, so I just wanted to mention that because I feel like it's shisty as hell to not actually tell people what's going on with that. And I've definitely heard other people voice that that's a little bit concerning, but I've never heard anybody even acknowledge it as a worthwhile thing to talk about, which kind of bothers the shit out of me.
I wish more people would subscribe to the Trump emails and just to see like the communication that they're having with people.
Yeah.
And I wish that was more talked about and out in the open, because I feel like so many people just want nothing to do with it, that they're not interested in what that communication is or how they're marketing it. But it is so grifter-esque. Like it's literally just trying to spam like old people and take advantage of them. Some of the emails that you sent me are like straight up, I'm a Nigerian prince, and like the same exact level of grift. I cannot believe that they haven't gotten in trouble for that stuff.
Another thing, so on the 3rd, election day here, I woke up after, having my phone plugged in and away from me for maybe a total of 8 hours. I had 150 new emails, and about 50 of them were from the Trump campaign in one morning. That's insane. I actually took a picture of it to use for like a post, just so people know that I'm not exaggerating the fucking number. I absolutely woke up to a ridiculous, like, I think this is the close-up that I have of it. Yeah, got 159 up there.
Oh my god.
That's normal, right? You wake up to 159 unread emails, right?
Uh-huh.
Anyway, a huge percentage of those were from Trump, even with all of the like Democrat emails and like random companies being like, hey, we heard things are pretty weird. were people too, like all that bullshit. It was still a huge percentage that was just like, it'd be like, there was literally a section that was, I have been getting stuff on the Switch. They have good sales, so I've been getting like, $1 to $10 games to like kind of fill out stuff that I have on there. I bought some weird shit. But I bought a $10 copy of Turok 2, which is a game from like 95 or some bullshit. It's probably a little more recent than that, but barely. So that game in particular controls like absolute dog shit anywhere you can play it, but this version of it is very playable. And it's still bad, but I enjoy it, and it's worth a burger to have that for me. I had receipts. Nintendo gives you like an email receipt of like, hey, you purchased this thing, and then a like, hey, here's your receipt for having purchased it. I got those emails generally show up like a minute or two away from each other, in like just succession along your email chain. There were 4 Trump emails between those 2 emails. I have a shot of that. It's not as interesting to like look and see, but it was a Trump email, a Trump Jr. email, a Trump email, and like another Trump like campaign email were all in between the 2 parts of a receipt that I got from Nintendo. It's insane. Like, that's an unacceptable amount of like cold call bullshit. Just because people don't regulate emails the same way doesn't mean that you should be able to harass people. It's very weird. Also, the big ups to the Democratic stuff, they all have things like Bernie Sanders text messages and emails and stuff literally end with a thing that's like, hey, if you don't want these anymore, just do this. None of that shit on the Trump stuff. There is like, oh, you can't unsubscribe from this shit. You can block it.
We actually own your email now.
Yeah, it's nuts.
I cannot believe I would pay money to see any sort of statistics around the emails that come from Trump versus the ones that come from Trump Jr., Don Jr., whatever. I'm so like, why? I kind of am curious as to whether, I know for some people it does, but I want to know, like, does the whole Donald Trump, Trump Jr., Ivanka family thing work as a messaging thing? Because they spend I mean, of course, they don't make this connection, but a lot of these people spend all their time complaining about like the Clinton crime family.
Yeah.
And then you're like literally wanting to create essentially a dynasty of Trumps. And
I mean, there's that fucking QAnon garbage chart that's just like, here's how we could keep the Trumps in office until 2060. It's such a like, bootlicking as an adjective is such a shitty, like, non-descriptive version of that at this point. People are horny for imperialism. They cannot live without having a fucking king to come in and just do things to like subjugate non-white people. Like, that's all they fucking want.
Yes. I did have a family member. I was going to send this to you, but I forgot. I did have a family member post up an Instagram story of, that stupid meme that's the stock photo of the guy like looking at the other girl.
Right.
So this family member posted that meme, and the like significant other was democracy.
Yeah, okay.
Or like the democratic system or something to that effect. And I shit you not, the woman he was looking at was like kings appointed by divine power or something like that. And this person has kind of gone off the rails in the last couple of years, but I Like, totally unironically, like 100% genuine, he was like, yes, this.
Wait, that wasn't the sarcastic joke it was meant to be? Like,
not in that context.
That's way crazier to see that and be like, hell yeah!
Yeah.
Fuck.
I was like, oh, what I hope this is the reality of the situation. It would make it a little bit more funny to me if it actually was a meme at one point, and then this person saw it and was like, yes. Like,
that's absolutely what that is. There's no fucking way
right?
that's not what it was. Yeah.
Like, I really hope he didn't make that.
The whole point of that, like, that's basically the origin of simping. Like, that's the fucking like, there's a shitty thing that you want and you're a shitty person, so you're checking it out and totally into it, even though you have something that works. Like, that's what that is. I don't even agree with the meme entirely. I just think that that is the craziest bullshit. Like, also, like, it doesn't help that you know, Holy Providence or whatever the fuck you want to call it is not a thing. You might as well have a guy who's with democracy and glancing back at like D&D strats. Like, it doesn't fucking matter at that point because people just want this weird fake thing that they imagine will be cool. But fuck.
It was pretty bad. Okay, I guess I have to let my cat out. I'm gonna send you, hold on. I'm sending you a photo of the face that my cat is making at me right now.
All right.
Because he's been waiting at the door for me to let him out for a few minutes.
So
you can view that while I... Yes. Going out.
This is a cat, if you can make this out, that is done with your shit.
He's so mad at me.
Open this fucking door.
I love there's a very like over the shoulder aspect of it that he's like,
yeah, absolutely. I noticed this door isn't open, you bitch.
What is your point? What is the point of your existence if not to open the portals that I please when I please?
Well, this hurts me to say, but we probably only have like an hour left before we hit our relatively self-imposed limit of 3 hours, because that's where the YouTube videos start saying you have to be 2 videos. So I have to start my movie section or I'm not going to get through this garbage. So I went on a real journey this last week's time. Let's see if I can get this in there without spoilers. I just kind of scrawled mind poison at the end of this list. I had to, so I use a lot of like mnemonic devices for a lot of people, or like something that you can like read as something. For me, it's just like an image. It's how I took notes in school. So it's like, I need this image. It will remind me of like a year, event, and a name or something. Like, that's how I took history notes, is just like, oh, I need to draw this fucking lizard in a crown or I'm not going to remember the Battle of Waterloo. So the reason why Mind Poison looks like that on this piece of paper is because I wrote it in pitch darkness in my room as I was finishing a movie. That was all I could do, because I was like, I can't get back out of bed and write a bunch of notes. I have to just write this down and hope I remember it. The other issue is that is the second movie of 3, because the other movie is why I was late coming to this today. I'm just going to mention that one first, because I basically took my lunch section of the day and used it to watch Hoobie Halloween on Netflix. That fucking You can tell it's terrible the second you see it. That fucking Adam Sandler movie that's up.
Yeah.
Have you seen Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore at some point in your life?
I've seen Happy Gilmore. I don't think I've seen Billy Madison.
In Happy Gilmore, that old ass movie has a mean, like, social worker that the mom has to deal with or whatever.
Vaguely.
It's played by Ben Stiller. He has like a bad mustache and he's like, "You're in my world now," like that shit. People will know what I mean. That's literally the first character in this movie that you meet. It's just him. And he's just at like an insane asylum now, and that's just him at the beginning. He doesn't serve any purpose really. He just exists because that's like part of Adam Sandler's movie history, and that's this entire movie is Adam Sandler and like 40 of his friends making like almost exclusively bad skits, but it's a movie, I guess.
I mean, that kind of describes the entirety of his filmography, with the exception of like Uncut Gems, I guess.
Right, and like Punch Drunk Love. But I can watch like Happy Gilmore or Billy Madison. I think those and Wedding Singer. Those are all watchable movies. They're dumb comedies. I'm not like a huge fan of them. I definitely was for a couple years when they were like new movies, and I was the same height, but I was, much younger. I was just a more terrifying boy child at that point, but I liked those movies. I remember that. And in those movies, as a young teenager or older teenager, I don't really fucking remember anymore, somebody pees their pants and it's like, that's kind of amusing because you're dumb. You're a rabbit-brained idiot. And I will still watch those movies because they're pleasant enough and like whatever. I haven't seen them in years, but I've seen them plenty of times, as well as his bad movies, which is like Waterboy, Big Daddy. I mean, I saw Little Nicky in the theater. That was like the end of my interest in his movies. The point is, every single joke he's ever done in a movie doesn't necessarily have in this new movie, but there's a reference to almost everything. There's a fucking scene at also, this movie's rated. I don't remember the rating. It's like a PG-13-esque rating. One of the things that it's rated higher for is teen partying, which I've never seen as a rating before. But at a teen party, which is just a high school party, like that's what the scene was, there is a weirdly specific set of shots and stuff of a band playing at the party that looks like a scene from Wedding Singer, but that's it. There's no reference. The song they're doing is not from Wedding Singer. I don't think it's any of the people from Wedding Singer, but it's clearly shot and intended to look like a thing that's referencing Wedding Singer. It's confusing as shit. His speech pattern is different than his shitty Waterboy speech pattern. He is doing the same shit, though, and it's just a Waterboy reference, even though that's not explicit at any point. His whole shit is every other movie he's made, but with like weird pseudo Halloween stuff, like all around the edges. There are very few scenes that I think are actually funny, even though if I were asked if people should watch this, yeah, sure. It's very bad. It's so bad that I think the things that are really bad about it, you should see. One of the scenes that clearly they like as well, but I thought was like, this is like, if this were on Saturday Night Live, which I think is terrible now, and was never great, but it was like funny for a decent amount of time. I guess it was great-ish at points in the history of time, but like, who the fuck cares? Anyway, I like Tim Meadows. I think he's funny in some stuff. And I think he's funny in this, but I think it's for the exact reasons that what he's doing are not funny at all, but they look like somebody doing something in a movie that's like, I can't believe you're doing that in a movie. At one point, and you can see the outfit in the previews on Netflix, he's like doing a headless horseman outfit or like a decapitated man, I'm not entirely sure, where the outfit is like shoulders up here and then he's holding his head, but it's like fake arms, so he's like walking around with like a fake upper body, basically.
Right.
And in the movie, he's married to Maya Rudolph, and the entire joke is that they don't have good sex. But that's the joke, I guess. But he has these hands holding his head, and he's sitting in a car with her, and there's like these big weird fingers in front of his face, and he starts going, and like sucking on the fingers and stuff, and asking her, like, is this working for you? And she's just like not interested at all. That's a joke in the movie, and it's a joke they come back to multiple times in some way or another. And to me was one of the funniest things in the movie, because it failed so hard at doing anything that they wanted it to do. Also, I'm sure it was intentional, but the biggest laugh I got I didn't really get like laughs, but the funniest thing I think Tim Meadows was in this movie is that he clearly is playing a bald character who wants to like have hair. And there's a lot of like people's motivation is all that shit in this movie. It's all like the dumbest fucking like, okay, sure. But in the first scene when he shows up, I paused it to like go grab some coffee or something. And I came back and I noticed that I paused it in a spot where he was facing the screen and you could see his hair. And his hair cut off here, like there was nothing under the top, and it just looked like a dick. That was funny to me. When I looked at it, I thought, that looks like a dick. That's a pretty funny haircut wig to have. That's like the funniest thing that he does in this movie. The other thing that I absolutely did not laugh at any point in this movie. I think that's important to state out front. Also, this is the best of the 3 movies I watched. Absolutely. So keep that in mind. I like in the beginning, he's doing a bunch of fucking Remember the Zohan or Remember the Zohar, I forget what it is, shit. If you don't know what that movie is, fantastic. Never look it up. He does a lot of physical comedy in that. That's terrible. That's just him being very physically adept for no reason. That's the whole joke, is that for some reason he's good at something. Ha! Anyway, so in this, the opening scene points out that he has a thermos that he likes, and that's like his character point, is that he talks a little funny, he's a pain in the ass, and he owns a thermos. That's his character in this. He lives with his mom. I guess that's a character. I'll spoil the whole story by the end of this, so don't worry. Anyway, so he's riding on a bike, and he's like on his bike drinking like soup. No, he's pouring it into a cup and drinking soup.
Thank you.
Oh. Wait, I need to know what this is.
I was gifted chocolate chips.
Oh.
So
well, let's remember that Adam Sandler's on a bike and both enjoy some stuff. Are they dark chocolate or milk chocolate?
They're dark.
Okay,
they're very good, actually.
They are acceptable. So, opening scene. He's riding a bike. He's riding without touching the handlebars, pouring soup into the top of the thermos, and drinking it, like, sort of splashing it around. But it is showing that he's good at riding a bike, I guess. And a bunch of kids throw shit at him. But 3 kids from the side of the street throw eggs at him, and he catches them all in the top of the thermos. It serves no purpose except to set up this joke, which is probably the funniest joke in the whole thing, only because I didn't know what kind of movie I was watching yet.
Yeah.
He catches them in there. he puts the lid on, which magically doesn't have soup in it now, and he shakes it up really hard, and he's like, yeah, Rocky style. And he drinks out of the thing. And then he kind of turns his head to the side and just projectile vomits for like half a second. And that's just like part of the scene. This is like while the credits are still rolling to start the movie. So like I found that amusing because I did not expect them to do that, I guess.
Yeah.
But also, Kevin James is in this as the sheriff or something
of
like
course.
that.
Yeah.
He's basically got like a Kenny Loggins like beard and like mullet on, and he wears aviators. And the whole joke of his character is that he looks like that. And
nice.
That the person he was briefly, I think, married to or just dating, likes Hubie, and she's like the only person in town who does besides his mom. So that's a joke also, I guess. Anyway, everything in this movie is forgettable. I like seeing some of the people. I enjoyed seeing Tim Meadows. I enjoyed seeing C. Buscemi's in it as
really?
A guy who's new in town who insinuates every time he's there that he's a werewolf. And then fucking Rob Schneider is in it in a role that I thought was going to be Luke Wilson. So that kind of describes the expectations that this movie was delivering. The character...
I have to look up his face because I don't remember.
Rob Schneider? Yes.
Okay, now I do.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then... let's see. There's a bunch of like teen actors or like younger actors in this as well. They have a running gag in Billy Madison of a generational bully family called the O'Doyles that yell O'Doyle rules at him over and over. And that's the joke in that movie. They're in this movie too. They're just in it. They're major like antagonist characters. Ray Liotta's character I like in this, and I rarely like Ray Liotta, but he looks like a human being in this post plastic surgery. Like he actually looks like a normal person, which I appreciate. And his whole thing is that he just likes being sort of a dick to this guy. And I found him pretty entertaining. He's also not in it very much, and his most notable scene is when he just pushes him into the grave of his own father. Ray Liotta's character's dad dies off camera as like a thing that happens, not really like a major plot point. And he feels like his dad would have liked it if he pushed Hubie into the grave to bother him. So like I think that's a funny-ish scene because he does it in front of his mom, and his mom's like, "What are you doing?" And then he's like, Dad would have wanted me to. And I found that sort of amusing. But everything else is legitimately like just nothing. Like it, and still, you should watch it. But you should go in knowing that it's incredibly fucking stupid in like not a wow, these people really understand slapstick comedy. It's not that either. It just fucking sucks. Also, there are parts where the joke is just that somebody might like this person. There are parts where the joke is that people are not smart about something. There's jokes where one of the character like points of this like main character is that he's scared of stuff. That's just his character, is that he's scared of stuff. It's stupid. Anyway, I'm going to spoil it because it doesn't really matter. Everything about the movie is maintained. This actually might make people want to watch it slightly more because I think this is the only... This is clearly what they wrote on a napkin, and then they were like, yeah, we can make that into a movie. But this only happens the last 5 minutes. You think throughout the movie, it's a little Nancy Drew-ish, but like without any of the trying to like make a point thing. Throughout the movie, you just kind of see everybody in it as like maybe they're this person who's been showing up and abducting people. Maybe. That side plot, by the way, does not matter at all. At all. Like, when people are being abducted, they almost treat it like it's not even happening until the very end of the movie anyway. They briefly think that, oh god, I just remembered another big joke in this that I'll get back to. Anyway, so they work up this thing where every single character in the movie is like, are they the villain? And then none of them are. And oftentimes the people who are the villain disappear. And people are like, nobody's interested in finding out where they went except for the main character also. And then at the end, he finally gets Kevin James and Kenan Thompson, who might be my favorite character in this besides Tim Meadows, because he does what he always does in everything. He just plays a straight man character of like, why is that happening? That's literally like the jokes that he has are just like, oh, sorry, I didn't notice that was happening. That's it. That's his whole character. And I still like that more than everybody else. I like Steve Buscemi in this, but it's because it's Steve Buscemi, not because of anything else. And so he thinks that the one person who likes him in town who isn't his mom is the killer, even though there's no body of anybody at any point. And then he realizes when he's talking to them in like a sting operation that there's only one person who could be doing it, and it's his mom. So he goes home, and his mom is like the stock elderly mom character who's really nice to him, even though he's a turd. And she has like all of the... It's not even all the people who are the meanest to him. It's just the people who are played by character actors who are most notable are tied up in the backyard, and she's gonna burn them like witches. And it's in Salem, Massachusetts, so it's like using that theming, but they never talk about it. They never say anything about it. I think there's two other jokes in this. One's bad, one I think is kind of funny. I'll go over that before I'm done. Anyway, the whole point is she's going to burn people, and he throws soup on the fire before it can get out of hand. And then she disappears by making everybody look at a Frankenstein that's not there. That's literally the joke at the end of this movie. It's the worst. And everybody should watch.
It's a made you look joke at the end? That's how everything is resolved? Okay, yeah. Great. Makes sense.
Like, there's still a conclusion after that climax, but that's literally the climax of the movie as she goes, Frankenstein. And then everybody looks and turns around, she is, like, gone. That's it. Anyway, so after he throws soup all over stuff.
Awesome dinner of chicken strips and French fries is out here.
That sounds very good. Thank you.
Just came out of the oven.
Guess what I'm having for dinner?
Are you also having chicken strips and French fries?
Yeah.
Oh,
I sure am.
Excellent.
Anyway, I'll try to go over this quickly. The other two jokes that are in this that are worth noting. There is a radio DJ who's like a attractive woman voice, whatever you want to imagine that as, who's like a Halloween-themed DJ, does a lot of like spooky, scary music, and that's like the whole point of that DJ. And he goes to the radio station where this DJ is, and the DJ is Shaquille O'Neal. So that's a joke. And then Shaquille O'Neal's wife, I guess, is at the station, but it's also his house, I guess. And she has a guy's voice. So that's the joke. The only funny part of that is that they eat food really sloppily towards each other's mouths. Like, they'll share a sandwich. I find that funny because I like the idea of Shaquille O'Neal and this other person like eating a sandwich towards each other. That was amusing to me. The one other thing, also the actual end, the very, very final thing in this movie, as he's literally riding his bike off into the sunset in town is the radio broadcast, and it's Shaquille O'Neal's character slipping into the regular Shaquille O'Neal voice, and the other character who's playing the wife talking about going Lady and the Tramp on this spaghetti and meatballs, and then an audio of them going like that's the literal last thing in this movie is that noise. The one other joke that I thought was actually sort of amusing, if I saw it in another thing, I'd be like, huh, is that they do a news broadcast to like set up the scene towards the beginning of the movie, and all three of the people on the news, the weather correspondent, the main correspondent, and then the person like hosting, all three of them are women in identical Harley Quinn outfits. And I found that slightly amusing because that was just sort of like a joke that didn't require a slapstick explanation. So that's the whole movie. So if that sounds like something stupid that you might want to watch, it's like an hour and 45 minutes of that. So enjoy, but it is Halloween themed. So know that.
I probably will be watching it just for that fact, but honestly, your retelling, I expect to be more, I think it is going to be more funny than the actual thing, but I probably will watch it anyway.
So
I do like occasionally the just dumb humor.
Like I watched
Adam
the whole
Sandler's
thing.
Brand.
Like I wanted something distracting to watch, and that worked.
Yeah.
So what's your time limit on this food?
Oh, I don't have a time limit. I can go procure it whenever I'm ready.
I can have a little private word with the people at home if you want to go grab chicken strips.
Can you? Okay. Yeah. I might go out and sneak one and then return quickly.
Sounds good.
Okay. Be right back.
All right. So, I'm going to talk about a story that happened to me while she's gone. This is just a little weird, spooky story. On Sunday night, this last weekend, I Sunday afternoon, I was headed to work, and I have to go into the office on like Sundays and Wednesdays. And in front of the apartment, there was a rat dying in front of the apartment, like still moving and trying to like right itself. Another friend of mine got a hold of me about like 6 hours later, not in regards to anything, just to a group chat, and said that the exact same thing happened at their apartment and that they had no idea why. And that is my morbid synchronicity story from the earlier thing. We built a shelter and put some like food around there, but it didn't end up working. But I'm curious if anybody watching this had something similar happen. Go ahead and send an email to it's this week's podcast, all one word, at gmail.com. And my guess is that our AQI has been up over 100 again until literally last night. So I'm guessing that it's things falling out of trees, because that's something that I've had show up here in the past, and the only other time it showed up was when we had smoke. So I'm going to guess that's just something that happened to multiple people, but who knows? Anyway, I have 2 more movies to discuss. So the unfortunate
chicken strip ASMR real quick. Oh, that wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. Here, I'll just do a crunch.
Now that sounds good.
Pretty good. I think it's Winco.
When we're done here, I get Shake Shack occasionally in lieu of buying some stuff for the Switch. I haven't had the extra money to both try and like support what I need to support and also get food once a week. So I'm on sort of a hiatus from that until I just feel better about it. So probably like a few more weeks before I start doing it again. But for a fraction of the price, usually about $10, I can go to Shake Shack and I get one of their little burgers, which is very satisfying. It's still like fucking 550 calories or whatever. An order of just regular ass fries, and then they've been offering 6-piece chicken like things with honey mustard, which for whatever reason honey mustard is hard to find lately. I mean, I get that like it's not everybody's favorite condiment, but I like it a lot with chicken, and they clearly understand that people do like that with chicken. So I'll get that set of stuff. It's like what, like $14-ish usually, about once a week lately, which with ordering stuff with delivery and all of that stuff can run like close to $50, sometimes more. There have been things that Nick and I have split that have run way above that, which is troubling to me in food price world, but I would never do that if I weren't splitting it and it was only once a week. Anyway, so this has been my way of like having something that I'm sort of using as bait to get me to like move into something, but still doing it once a week. The cool thing is I am never going to eat fucking a full order of fries, that burger, and chicken in one sitting. So I take like a couple of fries and I eat a burger and like some, usually like 5 or 6 fries altogether. And then, you know, I'll have like nuts and stuff in the evening, but that's usually like what I'm having. But that means the next day I have almost a whole order of fries and the chicken, which is what I have waiting for me today. And all that stuff heats up perfectly because we have a toaster oven. So that is my plan for after this while I'm uploading. And I'm very much looking forward to it as well. But their chicken isn't as satisfyingly crunchy as what I just heard you doing, which is too bad.
I think that this is chicken strips from like the Winco Deli.
Yeah.
So Winco Deli is pretty solid most of the time.
My Southern Washington, Northern Oregon family, they have a Winco as the closest store to them, and they often have a lot of really good, like, cheaper food options. I wish that we had something. I have this fucking overly fancy garbage QFC next to me, and while I get some great specials, I do not like their overall pricing and setup. Also, Wincos have that like almost starting to nudge into like Costco territory stuff where they'll have a chip aisle or something and it'll be like 7 feet of chips up into the air, and I fucking I can't get enough of that shit. It's just the weirdest, like most satisfying place to go for that.
Yeah.
So the other movies that I watched was one that we had already talked about, which is I watched the second Twilight movie. I think I would say, oh fuck, I watched 3 more movies. Okay, this will be easier. One of these movies I actually liked, and it wasn't the like I could watch this that Hubie Halloween is. So I'll save that one for the end because I actually don't want to spoil that one. So stay tuned for my actual recommendation. But okay, so I watched the second Twilight movie. I will talk about that briefly-ish. So the second Twilight movie is in the first movie you see like vague ideas that there are wolves in the woods, and that's literally it. And they play it off like it is in reference to stuff the vampires are killing in that area. And you're supposed to think, well, maybe it's not vampires. If you're an idiot, or if you never saw any sort of like any media whatsoever talking about Twilight before Twilight came out, which is impossible if you're in the US. So that was missing from the first movie entirely in a series that was billed as like vampires and werewolves kind of thing with romance, I guess you could call it. And the second movie is a movie about a young man who is always shirtless. It is Shark Boy's crusade against shirts, in fact, is this movie. The only scenes, I think I counted 3, maybe 4 scenes in which he wears a shirt. And he's in the whole movie this time. The scenes where he wears a shirt, he takes the shirt off or it is ripped off every single time. He never has a shirt on in this movie.
God.
The only time you could make a case for him having it on through the end of a scene, even if after that scene is done, he immediately rips it off again, is when they go to a movie in public. That's the only time that he has a shirt on in like this whole thing.
It makes sense to keep your shirt on during that.
Yeah, I guess. Also, so the antagonists in this movie are mostly the 2 remaining vampires that were in the first movie already, who they had killed the one vampire of the group of. One of them dies practically off screen to werewolves after slightly menacing Bella. And that character in the first movie made absolutely no indication that it had any ill intent whatsoever. And in this one, it just has ill intent for no reason. And then it dies because a bunch of big wolves attack it. And the other one, I don't remember if she lives through it. I think she does, because I think she's in one of the other 3 movies of this series, which is insane. Watching the second movie, it's like at the end of the second movie, I didn't remember this either. The wedding proposal is already made. The end of the second movie may as well be the end of the 4th movie. That shit's all set up. That's nuts. Also, the conflict between Edward and Jacob, which is supposed to be the whole thing, that's basically resolved at the end of the movie with she's with Edward. That's the end of the second movie too. It's crazy to me that is that's the history of this series.
My impression as someone who doesn't remember watching most of the movies is that the bulk of the controversy was the Edward versus Jacob thing.
Right. But
it
not.
Seems like it's a lot less of it.
So there's less grimacing and pining for each other in this movie, a little bit less. But it's mostly because Edward is gone. Ooh. For like probably 75% of this movie, he's just not in it. Because at the beginning of the movie, they have a birthday for Bella, and she pricks her finger or some shit. And then Jasper, the newish vampire, which I'm upset that I know who these characters are now. I've seen these movies before, and I pushed those names out of my mind, and now they're all back in there.
Yeah.
And he can't help it, so he tries to attack her, and then she gets pushed into a table. That's it. And because of that, they decide that, hey, we're split up now, fuck you. And then it establishes early in this movie that Bella only exists, even though they spend the entire first movie setting her up to be independent in every way except for Edward. This one establishes that she's actually not independent about anything. And if she's not with Edward, she's going to be with Jacob. And that's just the way it's going to be, which is
That's nice.
Really weird. They're not... In the first movie, she makes it clear that she's not interested in him in that way. And in this movie, she makes that clear in almost every scene they're in. But at the end of the movie, she still says, I love you to him at the end, just to, like, confuse the issue, I guess. Because it's not, it's also not said as a, like, I love you blank. Like, I have plenty of friends that I have that same feeling about, but she specifically makes it a statement that is, I love you romantically, but if I have to pick, I have to pick the other one. That's her statement at the end of this movie. And, like, it really establishes that both the villain and the victim of this entire series is Bella. Like, she's the only reason why they're at odds is because she's doing that.
As a person who continues to struggle with codependency, I'm really glad that I never saw this and cared about it as a teenage girl.
It is
that
codependency, the series, like, to a severe degree. Also, there is, like, I don't remember, because these movies came out a long time ago. I have seen all 5 at some point. I read a bunch of shit about it because I love garbage. I was way outside of giving a shit about these movies even when they started. I just had to know. That's kind of my problem with a lot of these stupid things. And also, it cost me nothing to know, which is a great perk. So I know from that at some point, whether it's in the movies or not, it is stated that the relationship that she and Edward have has the same similarities of drug addiction because their, like, minds link or some shit. Like, that's part of what happens with them. So the codependency does have some explanation, but they omit it. They don't talk about it in the second movie, at least. And the it's so her codependency levels, they should have explained it, because when he leaves and she can't get a hold of him anymore, he's spoilers, he's in Brazil for some reason. I guess that's where all of the very, very white boys go with lots of money. And she is literally in bed, asleep, screaming at the top of her lungs in, like, 3 or 4 scenes, as just, like, simulating what her life is like for months after he's gone. And it makes that very clear. No, she's in bed screaming every night.
Wow.
And they also have a scene of her, like, staring out a window, like, dead-eyed, with, like, kids playing, and the kids keep morphing from, like, Halloween costumes to, like, building a snowman and stuff, and it, like, shows the months, and it's just her at a window, like, oh. It's very clearly like showing what's going on. And then the other part of it is, even so, it simulates her getting into dangerous activities as a way of coping, but it adds the extra layer that his, like, force ghost is following her around, like, telling her not to do stuff. So he is in the movie. So, like, okay, this is also real good. She's in Seattle. It looks like it's supposed to be, like, Belltown or something. And she looks down a hill, and the exact same group of people from the first movie who have motorcycles and are like, hey, come on, baby, are there. She even has, like, a stupid flashback of them in a scene from the first movie. And she...
because we we couldn't possibly be trusted to make the connection between those two.
It's that like really shitty thing that usually is how you can tell something was a made-for-TV movie, but it's not. It's Twilight. And she starts like looking down the street at them. They're like a block away, but they're like sort of catcalling her. And then a ghost image of Edward appears in front of her and is like, they have bad intentions. And then it's like supposed to be her figuring out that he's like projecting himself into her brain somehow. So she goes and like gets on the back of one of their motorcycles, and then they're like cruising down this like fake version of like pseudo waterfront, like under Alaska viaduct. And it's like ghost Edwards flying by her on the sides being like, don't ride this bike. And then she starts getting into like a bunch of dumb shit. Like the writing is terrible. So she notices that he starts showing up as a ghost when she does dangerous stuff. So she goes to Jacob with 2 busted up motorcycles or like dirt bikes and is like, we need to repair these together. And that's like her like romantic spark with him. So they do a lot of breathless, shirtless, working on bikes. She has so many outs to just be like, no, we're friends. And she never does it. She like purposefully keeps him on the line the whole movie, even though it's made very clear the whole movie that that's not what she's interested in. But because he never has a shirt on, literally whenever they're standing close, she like reaches out and touches his stomach and like gets into it for a moment every time. So when they rebuilt these bikes, they're in the car, and like an actual conversation, he's like, I'm sad that we're done with these bikes. I should have like kept it going longer because I feel like we were just hanging out to make these bikes. And then every scene she's in, it seems like they are making a point that she's just making up excuses to like keep him on the line. In that scene, she says like, well, I would have figured out something else for us to do. And stuff like that where it's just like, okay, so you're showing intent while making sure everybody knows that that's not true. But he's also fine with it. I don't understand why any of this stuff is like okay for a character that people are supposed to be into. Because it's not a complex... They don't go over moral issues in this. It's literally just, can you tame the monster? Like, that's the whole movie. That's the whole series. Yeah. So
I feel like the character of Jacob
manipulation doesn't need to be there.
Yes, I feel like the entire character of Jacob is done injustice, and maybe I just don't know the series well enough. But would not a person in his position be like pissed or angry at some point, or feel incredibly taken advantage of? Like that never happens, and it just kind of works out, I guess, because he gets to eventually like fuck her daughter, like.
Yeah,
I guess that's how they resolve that. They're like, sorry. They're like, you felt bad for this character the entire series, so they just had to like throw everyone a bone by just giving him a child to be with.
Also, I remember this, and we probably mentioned it, but they like make up these rules where vampires grow to legal super fast, just so he can not be as big a creep when he's going to fuck this baby. That's like also something that people need to think about in these fucking movies. Anyway, so that was a thing to behold. And that movie is very stupid. It brings in, so I remembered it being like those Vatican vampires, but that's apparently just like a Spanish town, which is even stupider in context because they make up a fake vampire Vatican in a different town where there's just a vampire castle that's a tourist attraction like it's not a vampire castle to people. It's the vampire's castle. It's in the center of town. That's where the fucking Volturi or whatever the fuck they're called are. And the way that Edward tries to commit suicide because he can't live without Bella because he chose not to stay with her, all self-imposed problems. And I loved this when I remembered it because it was the dumbest thing. His way of committing suicide is that for whatever reason, everybody gets dressed up in Eyes Wide Shut outfits in that whole town, even though they don't know there's vampires, to celebrate the last vampires that were gotten rid of in this weird fantasy town. So they're all like it's the leader of the Eyes Wide Shut cult, the like red outfit. They're all just in red outfits walking around like, yay, it's vampire day. And the way that he's going to commit suicide is at like, I think it's 3 p.m. for whatever reason. He's going to unbutton his shirt and walk out into the sunlight. And I guess everybody's just going to know that he's shiny, so he must be a vampire, even though that doesn't make any goddamn sense either. And because of that, the other vampires will kill him to keep their secret. That's his suicide attempt in this movie. It's stupid as shit. They also, in this movie, the only storyline thing other than, like, frustrated Jacob manipulation is that also, just to make it a pattern, she also leads on one of the guys who was interested in her in the first movie and goes to the movie with him, but Jacob comes too. So it's literally a third wheel thing where she's leading them both on, and then the movie's too gory, so the other guy goes to throw up. It's the worst, like, version of she's just an asshole. Like, this isn't the action of a person who's not an asshole. So the other big event is you meet the stupid vampire council. Again, they're just copying Interview with a Vampire shit. It's all the, like, every vampire has their own fucking special ability because that's what they did in the other movie. And I think it's a Fanning. I believe it's one of them who shows up as, like, a young-ish vampire, also clearly aping sort of like what if Kirsten Dunst's character lived in that movie, what would she be now? It's like a young vampire, but like not as creepy young, because I guess if they're not going to be creepy, that's what they're going to pick to take out. And her ability is she can just whisper the word pain at people and they hurt a lot. So she does that to vampires when they're not nice or whatever. It's stupid.
Oh,
the whole thing
is she a reoccurring character? And then she's in the, like, the last one. Is she the girl? Oh, what's that actress's name?
Isn't it a Fanning? Or
yeah, I think it's a Fanning. Is that her?
Yeah, that's her. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, so like they introduce some characters and they introduce the plot point that Edward is required to have Bella become a vampire or they're gonna be in trouble. But they leave amicably and they're like, they have like a small vampire fight, but then when they leave, they're like, oh, okay, well, if she's gonna be a vampire, that's fine. That's literally like the conflict they're having in that movie is just like, well, she smells very tasty, I understand. You just have to make her a vampire and, you know, then we can trust her. That's it. That movie sucks. That movie is about Jacob's sweet abs, and that's it. That's the whole movie. His vampire crew all get matching haircuts and all have sweet abs, and that's all. That's the whole movie. They turn into big, sort of shitty CGI dog wolves. They chase some vampires around a little bit, and he smolders at this girl who's taking advantage of him to, like, get into dangerous situations so that a force ghost of her stupid boyfriend shows up and goes, I'm your dad now. That's a bad idea. It fucking sucks. Anyway, so that's the second Twilight movie. I'm running out of time, which is fine, because the third movie I watched, which I wrote Mind Poison under the title of, is fucking propaganda. So Operation Christmas Drop as a movie that just came out on Netflix. I watched the 2 first Netflix things that have come out for the holidays because it's the end of October, early November, so it's Christmas now.
That's what that means, yeah.
And this movie sucks. It's based on a real thing, which is a supply drop, like an airdrop of crates that the U.S. military does in in correlation with like Guam, Australia, and like Japan, I think. They drop supplies as like a holiday thing onto islands in that area of the Pacific. This movie, you can watch it if you, 1, want to be pissed off, or 2, are already a conservative fuckwad who thinks that the troops are like honorable in some way and that that's actually something to love. So the basis of this movie, and I think you, Madison, should watch it, but I don't think other people should watch it. It is about a congressional aide who works for a Hillary Clinton proxy congressperson. She has a staff. It is 2 women of color. There is one slightly like slimy guy who doesn't have any lines, who is apparently also in line for a promotion, maybe. And then there's this Hillary Clinton stand-in congressional person. She sends her to a military base in Guam, which is a real thing. This is based on a real story, which they try to play off as like, isn't that amazing at the end of this movie? They even have a guy who does legitimately good work, who's in this movie as a non-actor, who is like old ex-military and helps them with like communications on the islands. He's in it playing himself, and obviously he's a terrible actor. So she sends her aide out there. She gets there. It's a very multicultural military base in which everything they do is about making sure everybody's Christmas is worth it. And the bad government wants to shut down their Christmas stuff because while the military is like so loving and caring and compassionate to all of these islanders, the American like system in which there is a female congressperson, like a bunch of like people of color working for her, like all this stuff, like read into what they think that is. She's evil and she has forgotten her humanity and wants to close down this military base. So she goes out there to find a reason why they should close it down, and she meets a tall white farm boy who's got great people skills, and he's going to teach her all about what it means to be caring towards the people on the islands and just, you know, a good person in general. His character is so cartoonishly like, these things he's doing are not a big deal if you're a person who has compassion, but if you're not a person who has compassion, then you think these are miracles from God, which they talk about a lot, that these are all like miracles. This is the most like Hallmark Lifetime God is in the air bullshit ever. So he took a slightly smaller apartment in the base because another family at one point could have benefited from it more, even though he's a captain. So jack off motion, who gives a shit? He's also a single person. That makes total sense. Also, as I've talked about like 4 podcasts ago, they already live under a socialist system in the military. Who gives a shit? Anyway, then she goes there and it's messy, and it turns out, well, obviously all of that stuff is stuff he's sorting to send to people around the islands because he's such a compassionate person. And then it's like every single person in the military, there is not a single person in this movie who is military based who is not the most like, well, of course other people come first of the whole thing. They even have maybe the most infuriating moment to me. He's explaining to her why what she does isn't good and what he does is good, even though those aren't the words he's using. And that it's because in the military we learn that we have to give ourselves to service before we take care of our own needs, which isn't at all about helping people. It's about being a functioning part of the military before before you take care of your own needs. That's a totally different fucking thing. And he's trying to play it off. The writers are trying to play it off like this is actually about helping people first and then taking care of yourself, which is so frustrating because they're literally they may as well be like, well, semper fidelis, always faithful, right? That means like we have to like go build farms before we go out there and shoot people. Like that's how much of a leap of logic they're taking in what this means to people. There's tons of propaganda, military shit of like, well, I drive these F-15s, and then they go down a line of like F-15s, like, wow, like there's a lot of that shit. There's a lot of like, here's all our quirky personalities in the military, but we're all very serious, and we do take this very seriously. They go to the like general and his COO, who is also his wife, live in this like modest but relatively nice house on the base. She goes there and finds out that the COO is actually a great like interior designer. Like she made this place look really nice because, you know, she's got other things that she does with her life. She just knows it's important to be there working for the military. The climax of this movie, other than the stupid love story that is like, all of you could have taken care of this on your own. You didn't need any of this shit if you were functioning humans. The Hillary Clinton stand-in realizes that, well, actually, I shouldn't be looking at closing down military bases. You've reminded me what it's like to be human to this person that she's sent here and badgered about closing. It's like the most like, this is about people who don't like the military enough being malfunctioning people. And if you really had a soul, she literally uses the like terminology of I found my soul again to talk about how the military actually is great and they should be there. The conflict for the guy is that, well, he helps people too much, so he can't keep a girlfriend, which bullshit. He's a like 7 foot tall, incredibly built white guy with like a high rank in the military who has unlimited everything. Like bullshit. Like, oh, he helps people and that just really wears him down. And then her whole thing is that she's like worried about keeping her job, but that's actually evil because it might also mean that this military base closes. They spend probably 20 to 30 minutes of this movie in indigenous cultures in this area, just having the people in those areas of Guam talk to the camera / the characters about how much they do for them having the military there. They literally do the fucking like Sorkin West Wing thing of like, in part of it, the part that changes the mind of the congresswoman, they fly planes around dropping like these care packages of like stuff, and they make a big deal. They have like some representative of one of the Guam groups of people come out and be like, we even use the parachutes to make sails for our canoes. Like it's all this like, cool, great. We could just give you aid without it being Christmas, but apparently this is what real like good stuff looks like. The congresswoman goes on that, and one of the things she says when they get off the planes is, I just couldn't believe how excited they looked when they saw these American planes coming for their islands. And it's like, that's not how the world sees us at all. You can't just say that like the US is loved by everybody and pass it off like it's true just because this one base exists, and they do this thing apparently once a year since the 50s. But who cares? Like that's essentially the movie. I do want you to watch it. What's it called? Operation Christmas Drop. I want you to watch it because I want to hear what you think about this fucking garbage. But at the end, they have a little scroll about like, and this is real. And like, that's all the info they give. This guy wasn't an actor. This stuff is real. Here's some photos. But in those photos, it's clear that they have some old photos of them doing stuff. And it's literally like 3 dudes kind of standing around a crate, which is like neat. And then color photos of the actual staff for the production of the movie, doing stuff in the movie as though, see, it's real. They don't show any pictures of them actually doing any of this shit. They just show like men by a crate. So it's also this thing of like, why don't you show us something actually happening if this is so real? And everybody loves us. So that really pissed me off. That movie sucks. They take the whole idea of like, they just, they love the Americans out there. Until Trump, people looked out and they saw the Americans coming, and was Andrew Sorkin who was like, thank God the Americans are here. That was his thing that he said. Anyway, movie sucks.
Oh, God.
The movie that I won't spoil, that I think people should see, it is a good offbeat romance. I think it's actually a good comedy. I think, honestly, all the movies I'm talking about, you should see, maybe excusing, honestly, Twilight. That movie fucking reeks. But, so this movie is the first movie that was holiday-based that came out on Netflix this year. It came out on the 28th of October.
Wow.
And it's called Holiday. But the thing that I like about it is that the only person who's like really like, oh, I know her, is the sort of happy but slutty aunt is played by Chenoweth.
Yeah.
So she's in it. That part's amusing. Everybody else is like people that I don't really know, but I've like maybe seen their face on a TV thing at some point. But it is basically, if you take it as a love story, it is a story about how people, like, if they actually want to have a healthy relationship, need to understand themselves first. That's it. Like, it is actually a very, like, pleasant movie. I don't agree with everything they do in it or anything, but I like what I was left with. I also like their jokes are pretty good throughout. The things they do that are like the Lifetime movie cute things are actually like done well enough. Like, for an example, I think if you watch the preview, you see it, but you don't know why. At a certain point, even though the main character lady hates sort of how wedding crazy everybody is, especially around holidays, she sees somebody who is thinking about getting married and is clearly going to be proposed to at this New Year's party. And she sees her in the bathroom after dropping wine all over herself, and with like her own friends there being like, you can't fit into this, my tits are too small, like and then this lady who doesn't like any of that stuff trades outfits with her and is in this like white kind of horrible dress but with this giant bloodstain looking thing. And I thought, like, the way the movie is made, that is played off really well. And that's like one of the less exciting bits of the movie. So like, I would suggest people watch it. There's a lot of stuff in it that is like, it doesn't fall into that trap of being offbeat or having like different conclusions to things just for the fuck of it. But it does have like, it has conflicts and they're resolved in ways that make enough sense. Everybody in it is pretty sarcastic. They even have one of my favorite things, which is somebody finding out about somebody else cheating on them at some point in the past in a really minor way, being upset about it, and then being like, I don't know, it doesn't really matter. Like that kind of stuff that's like actual human responses to stuff that I appreciate when they show up in a movie. So Holiday is people in general, people should watch it. Hubie Halloween is go fuck yourself. This is terrible, but you should watch it.
I will.
Operation Christmas Drop and Hubie Halloween, you should watch together when you feel like watching things that are awful is exactly the right way to keep your mind off shit. Absolutely watch those two things.
Okay.
Holiday is you don't need another thing to watch near this. And it's pleasant, and you could just watch it whenever. And I'll probably watch it again at some point because it's not super, super Christmassy. it mostly begins and ends on Christmas, so it is like Christmas flavored, but it's more like, I don't know. It's more of a comedy that I would place in like the halfway woke 2010 era comedy. Like, it's decent. Yeah, and I cannot say enough about Operation Christmas Drop. I would honestly, if this were a thing I did as a job, I would do like a full breakdown of that entire script and how fucking disgusting it is that they're using this like really relatable characters, really pleasant dialogue, even if it often falls into space of being like, this is just propaganda. Lots of like representation of different peoples and cultures. Lots of stuff that's like, this is how we get our message out there, with it being like something that, let's say, Jesse's parents, who are like fairly woke compared to some people, are going to watch this and be like, you know what? I do love the military, at least them. That's exactly what that fucking movie is. And I hate that it's like relatively effective at doing that. If I weren't like incredibly angry the whole time I was watching it, it would be something that like I could see tricking some people into thinking that that shit they're saying is really how it works everywhere. It's yeah. Anyway,
I would at some point be interested in doing a series on Christmas propaganda, because while you were talking about that, I kind of was thinking about it, and like a lot of Christmas movies, the entire plot centers around how like, oh no, my small business is failing, or something like some impending doom is happening that is the result of like either systemic problems or like capitalism or like bad luck befalling my family, like health issues or something.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the movie, it's always, but Christmas cheer will fix it all for you.
God.
I think that would be an interesting thing to delve into, because that is a very common Christmas trope, I feel like, that I didn't think about until right now.
Yeah, I would love to do that. And I would love to hear about the ones that you pick for that, because there's a lot. All right. Well, I think that brings our podcast about a lot of dumb shit to a close for this week.
We've done it. We did it.
But jabbers to everybody, and to everybody a good night. Let's enter Holla season, Holla winter. Keep it real.